What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you being here, spending some time with me today. As you can see, this is an extremely long video for my channel, and the reason for this is because I had the opportunity today to talk to a friend of mine about his first ever magic mushroom experience while it was still fresh in his mind. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk to him about this experience was because when I was just a few years younger than him and began my exploration into the world of psychedelics, I had no one around to sort of guide me towards a more responsible use of these drugs. Okay, so in certain ways, not totally, but in some ways I feel like I wasted a lot of my time. I wasted a lot of opportunity and even did more harm than good to myself, right? Now, I have to let you know first and foremost that I don't condone the use of drugs in any way, shape, or form, psychedelic or otherwise, especially if these substances are illegal where you live, because in most cases, in most places where these substances are illegal, they're highly illegal, and it's just not worth getting in trouble over. Now, the second reason why I would say I don't condone these things is if, like, say you came to me and you said, hey man, I've really been thinking about trying mushrooms out. What do you think? Do you think I should do it? I would tell you no. I would say, if you have to ask me, then don't do it. Please keep that in mind. If there is even a sliver of doubt whether or not you should try these substances, I would say stay away, okay? They'll be there later on in your life. Now, with all of that being said, I believe that psychedelics in particular can be very powerful tools of self-exploration, even self-healing, consciousness expansion, okay? But there are some dangers with psychedelics, and that's what I wanted to sort of talk to you about right now before you listen to the talk that I had with my friend, okay? Now, a lot of people make the claim that these substances are what you would say non-addictive. And in the traditional sense, you would be correct in this claim, okay? You won't become addicted to LSD in the same way that you can become addicted to like heroin or alcohol and even marijuana. You won't experience a physical dependency on these drugs, but there is the very real possibility of developing a spiritual dependency on these drugs, okay? And I'll tell you what I mean. Now, there have been studies done in major universities in the United States on magic mushrooms that show that 80% of users that take mushrooms in a more religious setting have profound spiritual experiences, right? Where they feel connected to God or to the universe, right? The higher power of their understanding. But when you're using psychedelics, much like a dream, the trip itself and the information contained within the insights that you gain from the substance tend to fade rather quickly from the conscious mind, okay? It can be hard to make sense out of everything that's happening in the experience, which causes a person to feel as if they have to continually return over and over again to these substances to make sense out of what they're experiencing, okay? And in this way, a sort of spiritual dependency forms with these substances, okay? Personally, I believe that psychedelics act as sort of like a gateway, just to sort of get you into this mode of thinking, of seeing the world differently from a more spiritual standpoint, where you see how related everything is, how connected everything is, and it can be a very eye-opening experience, right? But I would suggest that if spiritual experiences are what you're after, that you don't try this with psychedelics, okay? Nowadays, we're understanding spirituality in ways that we never did before, and we know that we can have profound, even psychedelic experiences without psychedelics, okay? Through like deep trance-like states of meditation or even lucid dreaming and astral projection. And from my own personal experience, the most profound and the most psychedelic experience I've had my entire life was through astral projection, okay? Maybe I'll do a video on that at a later time, but anyway, with all of this out of the way, here's the talk that we had. I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Take it easy.
I remember suddenly I saw my anxiety, my depression, my anger, all of my bad emotions kind of in a ball.
Your first mushroom experience.
Yep.
All right. When do you think you first started becoming interested in this thing, psychedelics? How did you like hear about mushrooms, or what made you decide that it was for you?
Well, I've thought about doing mushrooms for a long time. I guess I've always known that they've been around.
Yeah.
But until I got a little older and I started doing a little bit more research on it, and I actually read a lot of stuff about how it helps people with PTSD and a couple different other mental disorders.
Yeah.
And I was reading something about how it can help to reset your mind almost,
Yeah.
kind of de-stress you. So that was why I wanted to take it.
Yeah, I think I've seen some articles recently, like the FDA has been approving drugs for PTSD. People that suffer with that, and it does do things. So, but with this, when you did it this first time, did you plan it, or was it like an opportunistic thing, like somebody magically showed up and they had some, and you were like, oh, why not? Or did you like search for them?
It wasn't. I mean, I did want to do them for a while, but it was more of like someone just had them, and so we bought them.
Yeah,
we were originally just gonna go buy some bud, but they had shrooms too. Why not?
Yeah. So what? So it was kind of unplanned.
Yeah, but I guess the buying them was unplanned, but then we planned afterwards. Like
Okay.
we took two or 3 days off together to plan for this.
Yeah. What was your dose like? How'd you measure it out, or did you measure it out?
We didn't really measure it out. What we did, which is, so she doesn't like mushrooms at all. I love mushrooms. I thought they tasted great.
Yeah.
But she hates them. So
I like the way they taste too.
right? They taste pretty good to me. But we thought that maybe they were a little dry, so I remember we got pasta and mixed that in there. That was a bomb idea.
Okay.
But she didn't want the caps.
I've never heard of this recipe, dude. Pasta.
Right?
mushrooms.
I didn't think we were originally going to do burgers. But then we thought, wait a minute. The most saucy thing out there is pasta. That can really help the dry mushrooms. It was such a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
But yeah, I got most of the caps because she doesn't like mushrooms. So she gave me all the caps. She had all the stems.
I think you got the best part of the deal.
I did. I told her that next time she has to get the caps.
Did you have like you said you researched a little bit, you saw some things about how possibly it helps people with PTS, but did you look into like trip reports? Did you have like any expectations of what was going to go on with you, or was this like just no man's land? You have no idea.
It was honestly kind of a mixture of both. It's hard I'm a little bit stubborn when it comes to some things, so it's hard for me to visualize what someone else is telling me sometimes.
Right.
So hearing about these experiences other people have, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So going into it, I knew what people's stories were, but I didn't know what my story would be.
Were you afraid? Like,
Yeah.
were you were nervous, or?
Definitely nervous. I've heard a lot of stories about people calling the police,
Yeah.
calling 911.
Or
I thought I was
trying to fly.
Yeah,
Or
I've
whatever.
heard trying to, leave the house because they think there's a demon in there or something. I've heard tons of stories about that.
Yeah.
So I was nervous that was gonna happen, which is why we took a lot of precautions. Like we both hid our phones.
Yeah. Okay.
We both locked the door. We hid our keys too. We did all that. The funny thing is though, we decided to do all that after we ate the shrooms. So we were in a rush to finish everything before they kicked in.
Yeah. Sometimes that's good though. You need things to do to keep your mind like off of the anxiety. Did you
Yeah.
have that like pre-trip anxiety? Like after you ate them, you start. That's why I want to get into it, dude. Like when you ate them, I want to know how like. Did you know it was coming when it was coming? Like, did you start to feel?
It was
Something.
almost like it just kind of hit me, just like a smack. Someone just hit me, but then it just got slowly. I don't want to say worse, but I guess higher.
Yeah.
Slowly as time went on. That was really interesting.
Did you
how
throw up or anything?
No.
Did you feel sick to your stomach?
I did, but I intentionally. I knew if I threw up, it'd probably not be as good, so I didn't.
A lot of the times, like a lot of the times it happens like in the peak of the experience, you may throw up, but then it gets like after you throw up, you're like, oh my god, like it's really happening now.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
God
sometime
damn.
for me in my past. But yeah, so just tell me, man, like just tell me about it. You took them, you know what I mean? And then what did you guys do and how did it I just
So
want to hear about the whole thing.
since she did shrooms once,
Okay.
so she wasn't quite sure exactly how it worked, and apparently she was, and we didn't know what would cause a bad trip because that sounded really scary to us.
Right.
So we kept thinking, well, what's our favorite movie? Lord of the Rings. So we threw that on, but we didn't quite think too much else. We should have prepped the area a little better.
Yeah, but that's maybe in hindsight.
Yeah,
Your
that's,
first thing is usually it's like you're not setting up this formal setting or whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean.
No, I got you. I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad
Lord
we
of the
didn't.
Rings though, which one?
I believe we put on the second one because Gollum was in it, and he's my favorite.
Okay, yeah.
I like Gollum.
Yeah.
So I remember whenever I was trying to find a place to hide my keys, that was when it hit me. And I don't quite remember what happened when it hit me. I don't even remember what I did with my keys. I think I just kind of dropped them.
Surprised you made it over here today.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I am too. Man, I am too, man. But I think I just dropped them and just went into bed. But I remember as I laid there, it was fun. You know, I felt nice and bubbly. But then I'm a gamer. You know, I have my collection of cans next to me. You know, I think every nerd does.
Yeah.
And I kept telling myself, well, I'm working out these shrooms tomorrow. I'm gonna take care of those cans. I'm gonna go throw them away and everything. And I guess for some reason that just turned to 11. I just got incredibly anxious about these cans. I had to go take care of them. And I remember I was sitting up in bed, and I remember I started kind of leaning towards the cans. And as I leaned more to them, I remember my vision became darker. And I knew I was having some kind of bad trip. I knew that's what it was. But as it was going, I don't quite know what happened. I remember suddenly I saw my anxiety, my depression, my anger, all of my bad emotions kind of in a ball. The best way I can kind of explain it is a tentacle monster in some hentai. That's kind of the best way I could, try to explain it. But I instantly knew what it was. It was my anxiety, my anger, and I was able to shrug it off.
But and you almost saw tangible evidence of your anxiety, like
Yeah.
from the cans.
It was almost like the cans turned into it, and I was able, and it has actually helped me a lot now. So something that it's taught me is to look at my anxiety and accept that it's there and move on. Now I don't have to sit in my car 20 minutes trying to get into Walmart. I can just get out of my car and go into Walmart.
Why? What do you mean, though?
Like, sometimes I just get really anxious, like really nervous about the smallest things, like going shopping at Walmart. You
Why?
know,
'Cause
or
it's a lot of people. Big
it's a lot
place,
of
or-
people. Yeah, like it freaks me out. But now I can recognize when I'm anxious, even when I'm angry.
How long's it been though since that trip?
It was in the middle of my quarantine, I guess, maybe a month or so ago, maybe a month and
And
a
you're
half ago.
still feeling like it's helped you a little bit with the anxiety and.
I feel like the effects is becoming a little less. I'm not as confident. You know, my anxiety is starting to return. I would assume the best way to bring it back is to do shrooms again. I don't know, but it was really interesting seeing the way my anxiety formed like that and having the ability to recognize it now after seeing it tangibly in front of me.
Yeah.
I've never really thought I would experience seeing. I mean, the best way I can really describe the feeling is seeing myself. I am that weird tentacle porn. I am that, but I can accept that that's a part of me, and I can move on with my day now.
Yeah, you can move on or do something about it.
Yeah,
Not simply move on, but I would imagine you probably cleaned up the cans.
the next day.
Yeah, because maybe for some reason, like you were able to manifest the anxiety into those cans
hmm
or whatever, and it's a strange relationship we have, like mentally, like internally with the external world. Like, if you wanted to change something about your inner state of being, something that's going on in your mind, like the anxiety, sometimes it's not all in the head. Sometimes you can't just change your thought process. Sometimes you can change something in the physical environment that will cause a change inside of you, or vice versa. If you want to cause a change in your external environment, you can start thinking different, cause a perspective change, you know what I'm saying? And you're literally like changing your world, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like something like that. Like you were able to see your anxiety, but it's not just something that's inside of you. You know what I mean? Like it's affecting you, like certain things in your surroundings are affecting you. Like it could be illustrating something even deeper than just those cans, this mess that you've had sitting there, those cans. Why are those cans sitting there? Why do you just do that? Just set them over here and you don't go throw them away. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're piling up. And without the mushrooms, you were not even aware of this. Maybe you have strange little anxiety at home. You know what I'm saying? But then when you take the mushrooms, you see like, this mess could be causing some of this, you know what I mean? Like, and then you can start to change these things, but it could be illustrating like a disorganized thought pattern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That disorganized thought pattern is not only a disorganized thought pattern, but a behavioral pattern. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it is manifesting literally. Your anxiety is coming out of you and into your environment, and it's like showcasing that perhaps you have crisscrossed some things. You know what I'm saying? Like you've been less aware of things.
Almost like it's trying to guide me, would you say? Almost like...
Or guide you and kind of open you up to these things. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, did you, because I know you probably had some sort of expectation for the way that the trip was going to go because of the research that you did, like, you know, listening to other people that have tripped and whatever had bad experience. Do you think did that match with your experience?
Not at all. I wasn't expecting to have, I would call it a bad trip. I wasn't expecting to have that. I remember I was in pain.
But you're calling it a bad trip, but it seems like...
It was a good trip after.
It was a little
bad.
like anxiety inducing during the fact, but yeah, after, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't so bad.
I've learned a lot from the bad trip, I
Yeah.
would say. It was bad in the moment. In the moment, I was in pain. For whatever reason, I was hurting. And I remember when I woke up, I had scratches all along my legs. Like, for some reason, I was scratching at my legs. I was in pain of some kind. But now that it's over and I can look back at it, I learned a lot.
What do you think that the pain was?
I don't know.
A lot of times, like, yeah, people stretch and do, like, yeah, you know, funny things when you're feeling a certain way. The euphoria kicks in, you know what I mean? And it's crazy. But that's another thing I wanted to ask you. Did you have, like, extreme, like, visuals? Or was it mostly body or mental? You know what I mean?
I was expecting crazy visuals.
Yeah,
I didn't
see
get
midgets
much.
and dragons. And
I was expecting a lot. That was part of the reason why we threw on Lord of the Rings. We were expecting just to be teleported to Lord of the Rings, but that's not at all what happened. No, I didn't see much of visual things, but that might have been just because I closed my eyes. I was all like, all right, I'm tired of seeing these cans. I'm closing my eyes now. I'm going to sleep. That might have been why.
But did you go to sleep while you were tripping, or did you go to sleep like while you were coming down, or while you were anticipating?
I think I went to sleep. It's all a little fuzzy, but I'm pretty positive I went to sleep while I was tripping because I really didn't want to see this anxiety. I guess it was kind of early. You know, I didn't quite see my tentacle monster yet. So I was tired of this anxiety feeling I was having, so I thought, hey, if I sleep, maybe I'll dream some weird shit. You know, maybe it'll be turned into kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
So that was why I fell asleep. And I remember I remember waking up and at weird moments, like being in pain, but I was almost happy about it. There was one particular moment where I woke up and I was okay with the pain. It was weird. I was happy. I didn't want the pain to end, but the pain was there. I don't even know if it was pain that's just the way my mind describes it to me now.
Right. Yeah. Pain, they say that pain can be like a guiding force.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like it could manifest as a physical pain or emotional pain or something like that, or like in your case, like this anxiety and causing you this form of pain that you're describing, but you could take that pain and follow it all the way to its source. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like it's in the cans, but we know it's not in the cans. You know what I mean? And you can like trace it back to its origin, which may not be what's going on with you right now. Like you're talking about PTS, PTSD or whatever, yeah, it could be something from your childhood that's
Yeah.
causing you pain or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You can use this pain as a guide.
Yeah.
You see
Okay.
what I'm saying? But you said something earlier about, oh yeah, the anxiety. We were talking about the anxiety and how you experienced some sort of relief from the anxiety after
Mhm.
the trip. And then you said, and I don't, maybe that's starting to fade and I don't know how to bring that back, but maybe to do more mushrooms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so is that what you're thinking? Like, you're thinking that, because it could be a dangerous thought to have.
It could be. That's kind of why I don't want to have that thought. I don't want to say the best way to get rid of my anxiety is to go do more mushrooms. That leads to dependency. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but a personal, it is still like a personal decision
Yeah.
too. Like if you were able to do it, like I did LSD like
Mhm.
once a week for 8 months. You know what I mean? And it like transformed my life, the way that I was thinking, but I didn't become dependent on it. But I noticed that like it was having some sort of profound effect on the way that I was seeing the world and viewing myself. And
Yeah.
like I was able to accept certain things, like accept responsibility for my emotions. You know what I mean? And like, and just other things like that. Like it just opened up my perspective to like, to the fact that really what it was, because really from my, my own past trauma, it felt like I was multiple people,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't feel like that before the acid. Like before the acid, I was like, I knew that perhaps there was something going on in my mind. But as I got deeper and deeper into this experiment with the acid, because I wasn't microdosing, I was taking like 150 micrograms once a week and going with it. But progressively, as I got deeper and deeper into it, a couple months, I began to be able to see that my mind was split. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was, I wouldn't say like multiple personalities, but I was able to like see the negative self-talk, like that part of me that
Yeah.
says that I'm not good enough. You know what I mean? Or you need to do more. Or no, that's impossible. You'll never be any better than you are right now. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, that's not me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
what is that? I've got to get that up out of here. You know what I mean? And try to get past it. But then didn't you experience some sort of boost in creativity?
Yeah.
Too, but was that during the trip or after?
That was during, actually, right whenever, or I guess maybe somewhere in that state between during and after, I guess. But after I saw this being, after I saw whatever it was, and
Hold on. Let me stop you, dude. Let's talk about this being thing again. So it was cans,
it was, I don't,
but it was you had a pile of cans,
yeah,
and then somehow the cans morphed into, like you saw, it was a being that. What do you mean a being? Like, were you just sensing it, or were you seeing it? Did it have like eyeballs and
no, it was, I guess,
like a presence?
now that I think of it, all I really have is an image in my head of it. Thinking of it, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. So at the time, I think I remember I would visibly turn my head to look at the cans, but I guess I would see the cans, but I would also see something else over the cans, almost like a shadow, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you would call like an entity
Yeah,
or a presence, a looming presence.
definitely
in the
some
room.
sort of presence. Definitely, almost like I could see through it and see the cans. I don't want to quite call it a shadow, because a shadow you can still see the colors, you can still see the definitions. I guess it was almost like the cans were the shadow. I didn't see the color of the cans. I just saw the cans, and then I saw this entity over it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So with this, what was the creativity boost? What was it? What did you start doing?
I decided I'm going to accept my anxiety is there, and I decided to close my eyes and imagine I was somewhere else, I guess. I started to create my own world. I started to go from the ground up. Like, I started at ground zero, and I thought, all right, who all lives here? And I came up with elves, dwarves, and I changed the names for all of these races. I tried creating my own races, and I tried creating my own funny things about the elves. to make
like your
them
own
different.
backstory,
Yeah.
lore kind of thing.
Try to make them my own version. And then I just kept going, and eventually I even got into like the Wild Wild West days, and like there's magic, gunslinging, cowboy magic people, and I went crazy in my head. And as soon as I woke up, I wrote all of this down. And it was a crazy burst of energy. I never quite experienced anything like that. I guess the closest thing I got to it was that flow state that we've talked about, the being in that creative mindset.
Yeah.
It was almost like that dialed up to 11. It was crazy. It was super cool.
Do you think that the same thought when you had with the anxiety going away, but then coming back and maybe doing more shrooms, have you had the same thoughts like, oh, I was so creative that
Yeah.
maybe I would do this again to get that boost?
I definitely have, and I've tried to stay away from that thought in particular because I want to be creative without it, but I definitely would consider doing it as a boost next time. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, so now that you've done the mushrooms, this one time you did it how you did it, with seems like little planning,
Mhm.
and then what can you plan for when you don't know what to expect?
Exactly.
So, but now you've had this experience. What would you do next time differently?
Definitely prepare the room a little more.
What, clean it?
Clean it, yeah. Take the cans off beforehand, and definitely don't try to prep everything after you ate the shrooms.
Yeah.
Because I just dropped my car keys. What if something happened and I grabbed those car keys again? I definitely would have prepared things a little, just a little better. Maybe just plan it out.
Yeah.
And I definitely wouldn't watch Lord of the Rings again. So I eventually...
Wait, was it the Lord of the Rings that had like the crazy tree things? And...
Yeah, that shit
Oh,
blew me.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was too much.
Yeah.
So my shrooms kicked in, and then as soon as they were done, I was still really fucking high, but they were, kind of over with. I was breathing. I was alive now. But then Jess's, my wife's, kicked in right then. So we decided, all right, we're not watching the next Lord of the Rings. So I actually picked one of my favorite movies, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Really colorful, right? It's a kid's movie. You're not gonna get a bad vibe off of it. And her experience was vastly different than mine. Hers was apparently during Lord of the Rings, she was just kind of fucking around with her vape, like just blowing smoke into her hands and playing with it. But then whenever she was watching that movie, there was one part where someone died, and as soon as that person died, she apparently felt like she was like out of her body experience, apparently.
Yeah.
She had a much different experience than I did. So that is something that I would do. Now that I understand what causes it, I would definitely pick a better movie. But
Yeah.
definitely the kids' movies are the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you want to have that experience, like with me, I think I've always been more attracted to like LSD,
Uh-huh.
more so than mushrooms. I don't really know why. Maybe because it's just like a little tab,
Yeah.
and then you go on or whatever. But something about acid has always just attracted me more. So, but yeah, I like to watch movies that are like almost prophetic. You know what I'm saying? Or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like metaphorical.
Yeah, okay.
Like that are, and then because you get your mind blown by these things. Like, for me, the reason why I like the hallucinogenics or psychedelics is because they allow me to make connections in my life that like I would never be able to make before. Like watching a movie or something, but it feels like the characters in the movie are talking to you,
Yeah.
or talking about you, or they're describing your life experience, but in an abstract way. Whatever's going on in the Lord of the Rings world is explaining a real human process or struggle or whatever the fuck is going on. So I really enjoy those things, but I think I've tripped on acid like at least 100 times. I've done mushrooms like a handful of times. And I'm not really sure, because of my lack of experience, how different the two substances really are. But yeah, so your expectations were shattered,
Oh, yeah.
and you had this bad trip experience, sort of. You would do it again, though.
100%. I would even say I hope everyone does experience a bad trip at least once. At least I don't know
Like if they decide to do it.
if they decide to do it, and if the bad trip happens, I hope that they learn from it. Like, at least I'm trying to do, at least.
Yeah.
You know, it was definitely a huge learning experience for me. I do hope everyone experiences what I experienced. I don't want to say a bad trip, because that might be a totally different thing. I've heard plenty of bad trip stories that weren't anything like mine.
Yeah.
You know, but I hope that someone experiences that I did, at least.
Yeah, and a lot of times I think people that have bad trips, they don't take it in the same way that you did, where you're able to consciously like figure out, okay, this is like my anxiety monster, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they just see something manifest like that and they're never connecting it to an inner experience, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they just like freak out about it, and they're not able to like stay centered, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I've always felt more like mentally strong than a lot of people, like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like everyone's acting crazy on this shit, but I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I think a lot of people like expect to have these like crazy trips with like dragons and
No, yeah.
or whatever. But did it open you up to other psychedelic substances? Like you tried mushrooms for the first time,
Uh-huh.
but there's also like LSD and DMT and you know, things that you could say are stronger, like DMT.
Mhm.
You know, they say it's the most
I've
powerful hallucinogenic known
Read stuff
to man.
on that one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that one will definitely toss your ass into another world. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like
yeah.
a whole nother dimension. Like, but yeah, what do you think? Did it open you up to that?
It would, or it has. I've definitely considered trying other things, seeing what those experiences are like. My wife's not as she's not as optimistic about it as I am, but I definitely want to.
What about, you know, there's a bunch of different kinds of mushrooms, but like some of them are even called like golden teachers, like perhaps mushrooms can act as like a teacher, like a spirit guide.
Mhm.
Like you take the mushrooms and what you're experiencing is a more spiritual reality. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like your mental or emotional state is being projected out into the world so you can actually see it and interact with it. You know what I'm saying? See how it's working and shit like that. So it's, I mean, that's kind of how I've always looked at hallucinogenics. Like,
Yeah.
at first I tripped to have fun, you know, with my friends, and then gradually I got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to go do this like in a much more personal
Mhm.
setting, because I feel like the acid is bringing me a lesson. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Every time I would dose, I'm like, all right, what do you got to show me today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like what you're talking about, feeling like this presence or this entity, and then how we were talking about it, like the mushroom looks like a UFO with the beam coming out of it and stuff. Like you could be taking these psychedelics and then being put in contact with extraterrestrials. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like you're opening like a portal. Like a lot of the ancient civilizations across the world have depicted aliens.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we call them, aliens. They show the ship in the air and sky gods and sky
Yeah.
beings. But those might not actually be physical UFOs. Those could be portals, just like representations of how these entities come to this planet and interact with humans and share their knowledge and experience from the other side. You know what I mean? Or almost like when you take the mushrooms, you are transported back in time and learning ancestral lessons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or something like that. Like somehow you're communicating with intelligent beings that are somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you see that? Like, possibly. I know you've only done it once, but
I would definitely need to do it again to really give you a for sure answer on that. But I could definitely see that. Again, I'm a little hard-headed. You know, I think I would need to do them a couple more times to really understand it.
like that thing, that presence you were feeling. Do
Yeah.
you think that was you, or was that something that's been latched on to you?
You've definitely opened my mind to that. I never thought that maybe that wasn't me.
Tell me again.
So I definitely want to try playing video games. in that kind of mind state. One thing I didn't say was my wife, before we started watching the Spider-Man movie, she said she was in the mood to play a game. So I put on my Spider-Man game because you just literally swing around all day. I beat the game. There was no guys to fight. It couldn't cause anything to happen to her. So I turned that on. The problem is she's not a video gamer. She don't play games. This is like the second game she's played in her life. Maybe. So she just had trouble actually playing it. Whereas someone that's a little bit more, that knows that video game language, I feel like that would be much easier to be transported somewhere else. You're doing something in this world. I feel like it'd be much easier.
Oh, like you could play the game and be like in the game.
Yeah.
Like almost immersed in the experience much more than if you were just sober-minded.
Exactly. I think that would be very interesting, and I feel like you could definitely connect to the video game on a much deeper level. Like what you were talking about earlier in a movie, how you feel like they would be talking about you. They are talking about you in the video games. They are. You are that player now.
Right.
So I feel like it would be a crazy experience to not be or whoever anymore. I would end up being Peter Parker or something.
Yeah.
I think that would be a pretty crazy experience.
Yeah, when I tried to play some games when I was tripping before, and it was like, at first, it was pretty good, but as the trip kept getting more intense, I was like, not able to see right, and like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But I think that with the bursts of creativity and like those thoughts and stuff like that, I think that somehow these sort of substances allow you to forget about a lot of the things that's going on that would normally be going on in your life, like your worries and like all of these inhibitions, like the pointless things that you worry about. Like, why are you worried about what time you go into work tomorrow when it's today type of thing? So you forget about these things, you let it go, and then you're more immersed in the moment.
That's actually pretty much exactly what happened. I want to say I accepted my anxiety was there, but maybe the proper word is I forgot it was there. That might be a better word. I forgot that I was anxious about the cans because I was able to accept I was.
Yeah,
I guess.
Do you think that like, I forgot what I was gonna say. But the experience overall, yeah, I would say it was good.
It was very good. I would definitely do it again, 100%.
Yeah. Did you have any, like, besides the anxiety, did anything else pop into your mind that you felt like you needed to fight off? Like, did you have any thoughts of past traumas or like, did it get real personal with you at all?
I think no, but I think part of the reason is because I was asleep.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of it. That might have been a big cause of it. Next time, I'm definitely not falling asleep.
Yeah.
So no, it didn't really get too personal. But I think that was user error type of thing.
Yeah. Now this is a cool thing I want to tell you about with the use of psychedelics in certain circles of people. Like, you have people that practice magic, right?
Oh yeah.
And like ceremonial magic, ritual like magic with what I'm talking about. People set up altars, they have candles, but what we're really talking about with psychedelics or any other substance, and even without substances, an altered state of consciousness, like you're altering your baseline. So you have these centers in your brain, right, that control things like movement, or your visual cortex, your auditory or your olfactory things, and these are all linked. So that's why, like, I can sit here and when I'm talking to you using the language and whatever center of the brain that is allowing me to talk, and my hands move like this while I'm talking, because they're connected. Like, they share points of reference. So every word that I say has a corresponding movement to it. You know what I'm saying? And a feeling and all of this stuff. But if you could set up the place right, like, there's been studies at universities that say, with mushrooms in specifically, that if you were to take mushrooms in a religious environment like church, go to church on mushrooms. I know it sounds like totally you're on the wrong path here now.
No,
at
yeah.
Church on mushrooms. But they say like if you put someone in a religious thing, 80% of people have an insane spiritual experience on this. So like some people use these things to just have a good old time. Some people use them to experience another world. Like, if you wanted to summon a deity of your choice, and you set up the altar and you have offerings, and now you're tripping, and you're in this altered state of consciousness, and you're able to, from this point, channel this higher intelligence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And now speak from the standpoint of Ra, the ancient god in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And become Ra and channel him and like learn. You see what I'm saying?
Almost like you're talking, you're projecting him from your consciousness,
Right.
I guess, and you're communicating with your conscience, but it's him.
Right.
At least your version of him.
Yeah.
Which
So
is amazing. Wow.
with magic, with a lot of magic, especially like ceremonial high magic and like and channeling and all this stuff, what you would do, right, is you set up like an altar, and you have a deity of your choice. Let's say Aphrodite, and this is all made up. This is not
Yeah.
factual, but so Aphrodite, say she likes grapes,
Yeah.
and a specific type of red wine. There's also an incense or a scent that she enjoys. She has a color that she enjoys, and even a fabric. And you would set all this on the altar. So you would have your altar with, let's say, purple felt on top of the altar, with a certain type of incense burning, with the bowl of grapes, right? Everything that you're offering to the deity. And so what you would do is you would run your hand across the altar and feel that felt. And then take a grape, eat the grape. Take the wine, take a deep breath and smell the wine. Smell the incense. And this is acting on all of these different cortex centers of your brain and creating an altered state of consciousness, right? Because everything, this combination. And then through this combination of things, you're experiencing this altered state of consciousness that is Aphrodite. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're like conjuring this feeling based on all of these things that you're doing. Smelling these certain smells that are fucking with your brain and shifting your awareness to like a higher state or just a different state.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And then you can channel whatever,
Yeah.
there's plenty of books written on it, but I think a lot of people use psychedelics like that to like contact a higher form of intelligence and figure out like things that's going on in their life. Like for me, I used these substances further on in my career, like I said, like a healing aid. You know what I mean? Because I'm not big into modern medicine.
Yeah.
I don't want to be put on whatever those antidepressants and anti-anxiety and thing like that.
I don't either. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so using them like that is pretty beneficial.
It kind of hit me as we were talking about that. One of the times that I woke up, I remember it was kind of, I don't remember much about it, but I just remembered I forgot my name. I didn't know who I was. I remember I just kept asking myself, who am I? And then eventually, as I kept asking myself, I was like, oh, my name is Quentin. But I remember Lord of the Rings was on. And I remember this specific time that I woke up, it was one scene where Frodo was offering the ring to this weird demon guy. And I remember at that point I was like, I'm Frodo. That's it. I'm Frodo. That's it. And then I was like, no, I'm not Frodo. I'm not Frodo. And then I kept asking myself, and eventually I was like, oh, I am Corbin. But that was crazy to think I thought I was Frodo for a second. That's really weird to think about. I can't believe I forgot that.
Maybe you were.
Maybe.
Maybe you were. Like if you think about it, Frodo doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Frodo's not a real guy. He's not a
Mhm.
real person, but he is a projection of J.R.R. Tolkien's mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a part of who he is. Like, how did he come up with that character and put so much detail into that character? And so you know who Frodo is. Like, Frodo seems like a real person, but really he's just an extension of the author, or you know what I mean? So, like, maybe you were
Yeah.
Frodo for a second, but that kind of sounds like an ego death type of experience where you forgot who you were. One time I was meditating on my porch, and I came out of the meditation like I was transported like to another place, during my meditation, like a place of nothing. And when I came out of it, I saw my reflection in the windows on my porch and did not know who the fuck that was. Like I was startled. Like when I came out of it, I said,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like 3 seconds is all it was where I was like, who the fuck are you? Like, where did you, why are you here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it all came back to me rapidly, but gradually as well. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh shit, dude. And I was like, what just happened? And that was not even on drugs. That was just a straight meditation. Yeah, that could be a crazy experience, but maybe that meant something for you. Like, you were meant to come out of it and identify with Frodo, who was offering this ring. Why did he offer the ring to the demon?
I
haven't watched those movies in freaking forever, dude.
In the second movie, I remember they came into contact with this human group, and this human group wanted the ring for themselves, so they were taking them to their king. But as they were like on their last stop, this is the last camping ground, we're gonna get to the king tomorrow. And then Frodo suddenly, like, he went under the ring kind of took control of him. And then I remember he was all like, oh, they're coming. And then that was when all of these demons and monsters started attacking, and there was, I think they're called Nazguls, these flying demonic things started attacking them. And then there was this one particular figure, he has like this bone crown, and he's wearing like all black robes, and he serves forgot his name, but the big bad guy with the eye, the great eye guy. Sauron, that's it.
I don't know how I remembered that.
I can't believe I forgot that, but yeah. He serves Sauron, and he wants the ring to give to Sauron. But Frodo was under the ring at this time.
You mean under the influence?
Under the influence. And the ring it wants to go back to Sauron. And so Frodo was giving the ring to the demon. But then at that last second, his friend pushed him out of the way and was like, no, you idiot, stop. And then his friend pushed him out of the way. But that was the particular scene I woke up on.
Do you think that means anything to you?
So,
like, if you think about it now, if we start to, like, you know, dissect it, have you ever felt like that? Like, were you at the verge of giving in to something?
There was more recently that whenever me and my wife was having a little bit more problems, I was a big drinker. I drank a lot during that time. I didn't think that would have any influence on this type of thing, though.
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, it might. I don't know. I don't quite know how that kind of stuff works, but I remember during that time, I was just really upset about everything, and so I would drink, and that would just make it all better. And it's interesting. And Lord of the Rings, that ring, everyone that views it is automatically attracted to it. You know, they want it for themselves, and whenever you wear the ring, you feel powerful, apparently. You feel apparently like you're on top of the world. So the ring is a drug. That's interesting, because thinking about how if the ring is a drug to Frodo, then I wonder if that was my alcohol, I guess. I do remember one time, one particular time, me and my wife had a fight, and I really wanted to drink, but I kept arguing with myself not to. And I remember I just held the bottle in my hand, and I was fucking crying over not having the willpower to open the fucking bottle. But I don't know if that has any connection. I don't quite know how that kind of stuff works.
It's like, yeah, well, most of us can't make those connections in our life. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just watch movies like they're movies. They're not movies. Like, they're movies, but some movies are not just for entertainment. Like, there are enlightening scenes in the movies, but we're unable to connect the dots with our life. You know what I'm saying? But when you take psychedelics, it boosts your, like, artistic ability to make connections. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you see things as they are. Like, what does that ring represent to J.R.R. Tolkien? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What is he trying to tell you with this ring? What is that shit for real? You know what I mean? Like you said, it could be like a drug, this power trip. You know what I mean? It boosts your ego kind of thing. Like, you know, you're like, oh yeah, I can take on the world type of thing, and make you forget. You're just totally blind to all of the horrible stuff that you're doing while you have the ring on. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, in an abstract way of viewing it, you can watch anything. Everything is communicating with you about you, telling you deeper truths and granting you special insights. And that's what psychedelics really did for me. Like, allowed me to sort of look at my life as the story, as the movie, and I'm the main character, and everything that's going on is a projection of my mind. Like the way that I view the world, that's what it did for me. So we walk around and we think that we are experiencing direct contact with things, but you never directly experience anything in the external world. You only ever experience you, ever. Everything is you. Like you are everything else, because the only thing that you ever see is what you believe is there. You only believe that this is a tree. The tree doesn't know what a tree is. It doesn't call itself a tree. It doesn't even know that it exists, probably. It's just doing what it does naturally,
Yeah.
you know? And so we just project our own perception onto things. So by doing this, though, when you look out into the world and you see something, you will describe it in a certain way. And then you will leave it at that. That's what most people do. But you describe it in a certain way, and what that does is shows you something about yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that's coming out of your mind.